for KFM Hotseat. Catch the fire tonight on KFM's Hotseat. Every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hotseat. The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hotseat tonight. KFM's Hotseat. Every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m. KFM's Hotseat. Only on 933 KFM.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Hot Seat on Friday that brings you a panel of the most experienced journalists and pundits to discuss very relevant topics that have happened throughout the week. This time, I am sitting in for the old man of the clan.
No, you are hosting the show.
I am hosting the show.
Yes.
Tim has told us we should not sit in for anyone.
Yes, this idea.
I am in charge of this show.
You are in charge of the show.
Is that a coup?
My name is Derek Wandera, and I have a very huge panel with me here in studio and out of studio. I have Christopher Okidi on my left. He says he is now the former youth leader of DP. And then I asked him, what about now? He says he's now the former. And I have the most experienced Timothy Kalejira will be coming to you, and Frank Mujimba. But on phone, I'll be having the spokesperson of Uganda Bureau of Statistics, Mr. Didakas Okoth, because we are going to begin this show by discussing the ongoing census, which is only left with 2 days, tomorrow and Sunday. And I want to just bring him in right now. Didakas, are you there?
I am online, sir.
Didakas, a very good evening to you. We have 2 days to go.
Yes, good evening, Derek.
Yeah, we have 2 days to go for census. There were quite a number of glitches on the first day of Saturday. And I think those have been polished over time, and it seems tranquil now. How is it, and how is UBOS handling the ongoing census, but also bring us to speed of how the performance is at the moment?
Thank you very much, Derek. I would like to first of all begin by correcting you that we actually did not have any glitches in the beginning. We only had a few difficulties, which we realized out of the login issues, which, of course, over the next 1-2 days, they were all resolved across the country. And we got our field staff undertaking the exercise very smoothly.
Yes.
And, of course, we have been updating the public about what we are doing in terms of numbers. Yesterday, we reported that after 6 days of the exercise, we managed to cover 60.2 households.
Yes.
And of course, to us as the Bureau, we want to thank all the respondents for giving in their time to respond to all the questions as it was being presented to them by our enumerators. This is actually, first of all, a sign of cooperation from the public, a sign of support by the public, but most importantly, love for what we are doing as a country. That right now, over the last 10 years, when we last had the 2014 census, it is very important that now everyone is appreciating that we are able to get the latest statistical information and data on our population, on our housing conditions, and all the other related demographic indicators. So, as we speak now, Derek, we are progressing very smoothly. Yesterday, again, I want to take us back to the press conference that we held yesterday, where my executive director told the public that...
That's Dr. Chris Mukiza.
Yeah, Dr. Chris Mukiza said there are some districts that were lagging behind. He mentioned Mitiana, Terego. He mentioned a few districts here and there, but he also highlighted those districts that are performing at a super fast speed, like Bodaka, and so on and so forth. So overall, generally, we are doing well. We are not afraid of the 2 days that are remaining, simply because, as I already told you, that the few difficulties that were faced with the login issues, of course, it did not enable all our field teams to start the exercise on the first day. But of course, as the days continue elapsing, we managed to address all those challenges, and from the zero, we are comfortable of what's happening in the field right now.
Yes, Didakas, I want to also ask you, because yesterday I covered a story about persons with disability, but also other special interest groups. There were some challenges again on the first day, but I think they were corrected, and as of yesterday we were covering one of the success stories of a household that has people with difficulty in talking and hearing. How is it going now, and do we then say that many of those have been covered and will be covered in these remaining days?
Of course, first of all, I also want to thank you for giving that very positive coverage. You see, sometimes the media, especially our media, they are fond of trading negative stories, but it's also very critical that we focus and realign ourselves into the good things that institutions do. For the cases of issues of disability, just like you covered, you saw our supervisor there in that area of Makindi Sabagabo, coming along with someone who's already trained in sign language, and they were able to communicate all the questions, they were able to ascertain all the answers to the questions. I think this is something that we must appreciate, that we have been able to ensure that every part of the population, the disabled, the old, the children, and so on and so forth, the youth, are part of this census count. And that's one thing that we must, of course, continue to trade, that this census, the National Population Housing Census 2024, is aimed at leaving no household, no one behind. Everyone should be part of the count for as long as that person spent the census night, which we have been talking about it, that night of 9th May 2024, that person should be included among the counting exercise.
I want to ask you one last question before I bring panelists here in the studio. The question I asked the ED of UBOS yesterday at the press conference about the payment for the enumerators, their training allowances and their fieldwork allowances. How is that going, and how has UBOS handled the negative kind of information that came in at first?
But you see, it is just unfortunate that some of our field staff did not understand. We have been preaching the gospel of e-cash payment. E-cash payment in a sense that every enumerator, every supervisor will be paid his money directly to his phone or directly to his mobile money network. This is very important because, first of all, as an institution, we shall avoid any tendencies that will come along the way that someone may hide 10,000 that belongs to somebody and so on and so forth. So the e-cash payment required that every district that had supported the recruitment process generate the list of their staff whom they are sure are now part of the field teams to undertake the enumeration exercise. When the district generates this list, they were supposed to upload them into our recruitment portal. Again, I want to take you back to what my ED has been telling the media, that some of the local governments did not follow that recruitment system, and they went and hired people behind the recruitment portal. Now, for them to generate the list and be able to enter this into the portal was a challenge. So some of them delayed to send us the names of these supervisors, of these enumerators, so that they could receive their training allowances. However, as I speak today, UBOS has received the list from 127 districts. That means that 35 districts are still pending and they have not submitted the names of their enumerators.
Yes.
Now, out of the 127, 73 districts have already received their e-cash payment. And I'm sure that's why you have realized that for the last time, I think about 4 or 5 days, you have not had this kind of noise again in the public, because people are actually receiving their money. But also the most critical part of it is that even now the enumerators have realized that the issue is not necessarily the Bureau, but the issue has been some of the local governments that have delayed to submit their names. However, we are working together, we are working very closely, because, this exercise we are undertaking with support and partnership with other institutions of government, and therefore we are sure that at the end of the day, we shall be able to receive all this data of the field staff, and all of them will be able to receive their money surely.
All right, thank you very much. Didakas, I will hold you on there. You remain online, because
yes,
we shall be getting some clarifications from you as the show goes on. But I want to bring in Timothy. Tim, we have been discussing this topic, and you haven't been on the show in some time. But I wanted to pick your mind about what you feel about this year's census and how it is being carried out, and also to know just whether you've been counted already.
I haven't been counted, and it's not like I live in a remote island in Lake Victoria that's can only be reached by helicopter. So the answer to this is normal incompetence. Somebody might argue and say, yeah, but that's a typical cynical, point of view. But it's just that it is, as everybody has been saying, a census gives you 10 years notification. It's not one of these events like, let's say, mudslides in Kasese or Bududa, or let's say COVID-19 in 2020 that's falls upon the country and unprepared. This is something we know in advance is coming. How do you have this level of incompetence? All the glitches he's describing, the spokesperson of the agency in charge, speaks to the incompetence we've been talking about. Critics of President Museveni have been saying this since 2021, when he very confidently said he had appointed a cabinet of fishermen, and this was, a new government that would deliver miracles for Uganda. And as we now know, the first thing the fishermen did was to do what fishermen do. They grabbed iron sheets from really vulnerable communities that needed all these iron sheets. So it is just part of this thing. All this, to me, tells a story of a government that has essentially just shown us what it really is all about: complete incompetence. Simple as that.
Yeah, Tim talks about incompetence here, and I know that the spokesperson has on different fora talked about the uniqueness that this census comes with, because this is the first digital census that Uganda has carried out. And I think probably in any society for the first time, and Tim will not agree with me on this, but it's just normal that probably some of those...
Yes, allow me to explain why I don't agree with you. Because remember, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, because of COVID, we could not have the regular, election campaigns, the crowd in-person campaigns. We went into what you call the digital campaign, which was very, proudly made noise about by the government. In other words, from 2020, even the lowest LC level people should have understood, okay, there's such a thing as digital. And between 2020 and now, the last 4 years, more and more smartphones, more and more this technology. So you can't talk about glitches under any circumstances. I mean, all these systems by which we pay revenue to the URA, all these things that are done online, all that is part of digital things. So once again, incompetence to you boss and its parent company, the Uganda government.
I want to bring in Christopher Okidi,
yes,
the former youth leader. What do you make of some of the points that Tim raises, but also the spokesperson of UBOS in saying, well, this is the first of its kind to be digital? And not that Uganda, when you look at the demographics in Uganda, and Tim has covered this very avidly, the reachability of internet, the use of smartphones and stuff like that, you look at the generation that there is now and how internet has penetrated, you actually team with all the figures that has been splashing to our faces, should know that many people in this country still struggle to get internet or even get smartphones and stuff like that. What's your take on that?
Yeah, thank you, Wandera. First of all, I think you should know that my background is political economy and law, and particularly digital rights and the political economy of digital convergence. And I think that is also the perspective that I'll approach the conversation, which I think will be largely agreeing with what Timothy Kalejira was bringing forth. One thing is that this census, first of all, I was counted exactly on the day at midnight.
Oh, okay.
Partly why? Because I was a floating population. And a floating population.
You were found somewhere.
Yeah, a floating population means you either slept in an hotel, you're a street child, or what. Yeah.
Or you went to your second home.
No. No, my particular case was because I just decided to check into an hotel because I've been running a consultancy, and then the report was required, so I had to take a writing retreat.
Okay.
Yeah, that is, then at exactly midnight, the hotel came in and gave us attendance forms to just fill in our details. So that is how they capture floating populations. And so when I had people complaining about not being counted, me, I was already counted.
Yeah.
But then I got to understand later that I was counted because I was a floating population. Now, but genuinely, this exercise has been very slow. But broadly, this census should actually tell you something about the quality of our public administration and the quality of our state institutions. Yeah, because Timothy has been saying there are very many data points in this country. You pay taxes and your data is, and economic data is captured. You have national ID, you have electoral data. So there are a lot of data points. And in fact, if all these data points, like NIRA, all of them were functioning, we would not even need a census, for example. But the mere fact that we are conducting a census is an indictment on, in fact, the entire digitalization of the country that we see advertorials on television, I think is a hoax. Because why must you then... Have you looked at the census questionnaire as a journalist,
yes,
for example?
I have.
There are 83 questions, right? Now...
Actually 150 or something.
180.
100 and... I think 183. Yeah. But the mere fact... And you know why the questionnaire is long? The questionnaire is long is because of interagency interest in data. Because the fact is that a census provides baseline data. And so you find that even Ministry of Justice wants to put in something in the questionnaire so that UBOS gets it for them. You find that even NIRA itself. So various ministries actually input into the data, and that is what makes the data long.
I want to hold you there, and we go for a nut break, and then when we return, you continue that topic, and you finish your summary.
Yeah.
The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat covers all the relevant topics every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m. The Mighty Breakfast. You are KFM's Hot Seat. Hear the real story behind the story. Coming right at you. Only on 933 KFM.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break. I'm still with a very huge panel here. Chris Okidi, Timothy Kalejira, Frank Mujimba, and on the phone is Dida Kasokoth from Uganda Bureau of Statistics. In 1 minute, I want you to summarize.
Let me actually summarize. In summary, what I am actually saying is that if we had a better system of public administration of data, and state institutions were functioning, because even UBOS themselves told you that for them they were ready, but then their district census officers were the ones that let them down. So that still speaks to the same state institutions. So if we had good data a good public administration system where data is integrated, we would not need the census. Yeah.
Frank, I want to come to you. What do you make of the comments that are and the debate that's just generating around census this time round? People are saying it's slow, but I know that there is some smooth and long coverage. Looking at the coverage, because as of yesterday, ED of UBOS was saying that they have covered at least 63%, and they have 2 days to go. So, by and large, in those 2 days, you think that they are going to finish. What do you think about it?
First of all, I must mention that the population census exercise is a vital exercise, because this avails government with data on which it bases to plan. So it shouldn't be handled with what I would call incompetence or inefficiencies that were out on the first day of population census. But I must also be alive to, because there are two things that happened at the beginning, and this was the challenge about the digital machines that these people were using. But also, UBOS is saying that their recruitment process was hijacked. So I would understand if you talk about the digital issues, because digital is digital. Sometimes it gets challenges, and these things will happen. But what I don't understand is when you say that the recruitment process is hijacked. You recruit people, you train them, and then at the end of the day, people at districts, these what I call district leaders, hijack and then bring in new people who are not yet trained, who are not in the system. Something that actually delayed the exercise to start. So that's what I find as incompetence. And I think it was last Saturday when I had Dr. Mukiza's submission about the same issue, and I felt because the question he was asked was that, are you in charge of this process? So I really would want to know from the communications officer that you have here online, if you're actually in charge, why wouldn't you manage the recruitment process yourself? Why should it be hijacked? But I think after the first day, the census has been going on normally. The only challenge that I think is that people in urban areas, it is a bit hard to find them during weekdays, because they always wake up very early, go to work. But people in rural areas, I think it is easy to access them and count them. But also, Wandera, I think I must also mention this, because what was not, I think what you would count as a loss is about 1 day or 2 days. So what is the challenge? Because government normally budgets and then they come up with supplementary budgets. So if we've lost 2 days at the beginning of the population census, what is wrong with adding these 2 days after the 10 days have elapsed? What is really wrong with that? Because you weigh the advantages that you have when you have this data that you're going to base on to plan, but then also, Wandera, one thing that I must also mention is about media. I don't know. It's like everybody out there is waiting for the bad news to see that government projects have failed, and they will always come out to attack. I really don't understand. I call this bad media. I really I find it, I don't know how I can describe it.
The evil paper.
That everybody is waiting for a government project to fall so that they can get something to say. Talking about
yes.
Leader Kas, are you there?
I am here, sir.
Before I let you go, I want you to respond to some of the issues that have been raised here by my panelists. Give context to the fact that there seems to be a sentiment in this studio, and probably even in the public, that there is incompetence. Maybe in public administration, like they say, as for the whole country. But I want you to explain to us the delays and whether the 2 days that we missed or 1 day can be compensated at the end of it.
Thank you very much, moderator. I first of all want to agree with the previous presenter. I think he has spoken to my heart. In first of all, on the issue of the media.
He's part of you. He's part of you.
The issue of the media, that they look for. I know in my mass communication class in Makerere, some years ago, I was told that when a dog bites man, it is not news. But when a man bites dog, it becomes news. So this aspect of aligning ourselves to only negative stories, I think it is also something that media owners should look into. Because now, since Friday last week, I know we have been putting out a lot of information, and I want to thank those media institutions that have actually tried to relay a positive content showing how the respondents are responding to the questions. Some of them say, I'm very happy to be counted. I know the questions are so many. And still I want to of course, continue to really agree with the other panelists, especially on the issue of the many questions. And, this is because of these questionnaires are developed out of public interest, and also looking at the development, national and international development framework that we have in the country, that all these questions should be able to respond to those kind of variables that, we have Vision 2040, we have SDGs, we have the elderly, whatever, we have the youth scheme, we have the parity development model. So the indicators that the UBOS produces should be able to measure some of these development frameworks, both at national and the international level. So this makes the questions in the census to be a bit, wide enough so that we are able to really have a comprehensive coverage of our stakeholder demands. I had one of my colleagues speaking about the need by the Ministry of Health, the need by the other ministry, the need by this, the need for a community information systems and so on. So all these are very relevant statistics that, we cannot capture them adequately during the period when we're undertaking surveys. But, a census is such a wide undertaking, and, it's such a big exercise that it tries to really capture as much as we can. And that's why we have come up with those questions to respond to all the other demands that, we have the civil society, have the religious leaders. I know some of you who are really, of course, in the media all the time. You saw how the religious members were castigating question number 15. I don't know what they were talking about, but there were so many issues in the media as far as the questions were concerned. But of course, this is all to the interest of the country, to the interest of our stakeholders, the interest of the citizens, that we are able to generate planning, to generate policy issues, and to have discussions which are well informed by scientific evidence, that you are not just speaking, that in this district you have this population, but you can't even tell how many they are. You can't tell how many they are, neither can you even describe and say, the male are these, the female are that, the youth are these, the age above 60 years are, this kind of thing. So I am personally glad to the panelists who are in the studio that they are really trying to generate this conversation around the areas of interest of all of us. Now, in the issue of the competence, as my brother put it, that, it is still an issue that, most of the government institutions still do not hold their constitutional rights effectively. I do not want to blame my brothers in the local government, and I don't want to blame anybody. But I think it's something that, each time you undertake an exercise, there is a bit of learning that you keep taking. These are good lessons for us as a country. And this being our first digital census, in fact, I want to thank, of course, my executive director for setting pace and for this pace-making activity that we're able to have a digital census, which, for me, I believe is going to enable the country to have a highly quality data, that can easily be used. And also, it is going to reduce on the time that we would take to really process all these so many figures. I know from the institutional point of view is that the provisional results should be able, the preliminary should be able to come out within the first 1 month after the end of the closure of the exercise. Now, then we have the provisional, which should be around September, then the final results in December. So you can see the speed at which technology is supporting statistical production, and of course, emphasizing to the fact that we should be able to provide the country with highly quality data. Then now on the other issue of extending, because, we lost 1 day, 2 days in some parts of the country. I will not be able to make any mention to that, but I know as an institution, perhaps we shall be able in future to come up with a position, and of course we shall really be able to communicate to the country that, because of this and that, maybe we have come up with a decision that this can be undertaken. However, for now, I will really not be able to make a case on that issue until further notice.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank my fellow panelists for the very wonderful discussion and presentation.
Thank you very much, Didakas. Have yourself a good evening as the discussion here in studio continues. But we have to go for a nut break, and when we return, we shall be handling Museveni in Kenya yesterday.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. KFM. The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat covers all the relevant topics every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm still having a very huge panel here in the studio to discuss your most relevant topics that have happened throughout the week. I have Christopher Okidi, I have Timothy Kaligira, I have Frank Mujimba, and my name is Derek Wandera, hosting this show. Tim told me to say I am in charge of this show today.
That is a coup.
The old man of the clan is not here. So we are shifting gears to the next topic. That yesterday, President Museveni had a state visit in Kenya, and we would like to get highlights of what really transpired there. On call is the official digital handler of State House, Mr. Nelson Kapo. Kapo, are you there?
Yes, I'm around.
A very good evening to you. We want you to take us to Kenya yesterday. What were the discussions in Nairobi, and what were the two gentlemen talking about?
Good evening to everybody. I don't know who the hot seaters are. What do you call them?
The hot seaters are hot people.
Yeah. So happy to hear from all of you, and happy to be on the show distantly. So President Museveni traveled on Wednesday afternoon to Nairobi, Kenya for a state visit that was, he undertook a 3-day state visit to Kenya that was hot on the heels of a joint ministerial committee meeting that happened in Kampala 2 days earlier. And mostly first importance was they had to ensure that they officially signed the MOUs that were also signed by the ministers that were led by Musalia Mudavadi and J.J. Odonga, our Foreign Affairs Minister. So they had to officialize these documents as well, the two principles. So the initial and the priority of the visit, first of all, was to ensure that these documents are again signed by the two principals. They are in the presence of the two principals, so that they give them a timeline, and they give them a command so that they do quick follow-up on all these 7 MOUs. The 7 MOUs, the most important that most of you would want to hear was the one that has to do with oil and fuel. So, and that was the key issue in the meeting, was that Uganda and Kenya have agreed to cooperate on extending the oil pipeline from Eldoret, which is in western Kenya, to Kampala, and then Uganda now can import the fuel products from Kenya without any impediment. So certainly one of the other issues that is in the line with the same aim, but now Uganda and Kenya will not have any trade issues. They agreed that they will trade without any problems, whether on non-tariff or tariff-related trade. And therefore, for those of you who are making juice, those of you who are making sugar,
and maize,
chicken, rice.
Eggs.
From that meeting onward, the good news is that there will not be any problem.
I hope so. Nelson, we have had so many bilateral standoffs between Kenya and Uganda, especially on some of our agricultural products, but also our animal products like milk and stuff like that. And I think the most recent was last year or early this year. And I don't know whether those are some of the glitches that have been resolved, and how should then Uganda be very confident and comfortable in those areas?
What I can assure the listeners and the Hotseaters is that President Museveni and Ruto, this is the very first time the president is actually making a state visit in a long while, that last 3 days. And that also explains the magnitude of the matter that was being discussed. Last time the president traveled for more than a day was to DRC, and it was about regional peace and security. It was one night. And these are 3 days, and these 3 days we had a whole day to iron out issues as far as trade is concerned. I want to also tell you that there is a continuation of talk that is going to go through the relevant ministries to ensure that as far as the agreement was concerned, as far as everybody is concerned, Kenya and Uganda are going to trade without any other problem. The other thing that happened yesterday is that President Ruto was sort of endorsed by President Museveni as one person who has brought a lot of energy in the matters of East African community. And President Museveni, in his own words, said that for the first time he's seeing somebody who has more energy in ensuring that East African nations come together than himself. And that person is President Ruto. And President Ruto, in his communication, he said, and I repeat, I want to quote him, he said, therefore, all the issues of rice, juice, eggs, chicken, and sugar are resolved. That was him. I'm quoting him verbatim. So, I want to assure all of you that, first of all, have the best hope. No, don't have the wrong hopes on this. Have the best hopes. Everything is going to be perfect. Everything will be fine according to what they agreed. So I had also wanted to hint on the fact that they also talked about the standard gauge railway.
Yes.
And they want to work together to conclude matters on the standard gauge railway by December. What people have been asking is that why don't we have a standard gauge railway until this time? Besides the fact that we're still facing issues with China Exim Bank, we also could not construct the standard gauge railway, and it goes nowhere. Uganda is landlocked, as you all know. Our entry and exit routes are with our neighbors, Kenya, Tanzania, for instance. And if we construct the standard gauge railway, where would it go? It has to have an impact with Kenya. So we would have to communicate with Kenya or Tanzania to make sure that our standard gauge railway connects to theirs. The interesting thing is that Kenya constructed theirs from Nairobi to Mombasa. They didn't have one that comes from Nairobi outside towards Kampala. So one of the other communications and agreements there is that Uganda and Kenya will start working towards the standard gauge railway so that we meet at a point. Uganda gets a point where it touches the Kenyan standard gauge railway, and then we are back also on the railway system. So there was that communication, and there was those talks. And also, UNOC had they signed an agreement as well with Kenya, where we will have to be finally licensed. If you remember, previously, President Museveni wrote a letter in which he was complaining bitterly why Uganda was paying so highly for its fuel. And he mentioned that we were paying so highly because we were going through middlemen. And middlemen were putting off a lot of commission, and therefore we needed the UNOC to be one of the only companies that deals directly with Kenya.
Yes.
As far as importing fuel is concerned. The Kenyans were not so happy with it, and that's where we got the first problem. And there is a civil suit, there is a lawsuit that went in on that matter. So what you people need to know is that the lawsuit has been withdrawn.
As of yesterday?
As of 3-5 days ago, they have agreed that the lawsuit will not go on. And they have agreed that UNOC will be licensed to do as the President Museveni had asked, that UNOC should be in charge of our fuel from Kenya. And then, I think this will interest the politicians. The President also talked quite deeply on Raila Odinga.
Raila Odinga, yes.
Who wants a position on the African Union as the chairperson, I think. So they had a long talk, and they had an agreement, and President Museveni's Kenyan counterpart was calling upon President Museveni to stand with Kenya in appreciating Raila and supporting his candidature for the position of chairperson, and therefore they want Raila to take over after Musa Faki, and President Museveni was called upon to appreciate Raila's candidature. And if you can see in the recent images, the most recent images, a meeting was set up between Raila and President Museveni, and they met at the CARE, at the VIP wing, where they spoke also in detail about this candidature. I want to proclaim that at least President Museveni has warmed up to the candidature, and we are hopeful that he will stick with Kenya. And I think besides that, there was only another visit to the Uhuru Garden, where the President Museveni went to pay homage to the warriors and the Kenyans and all different participators in the Kenyan independence story, those who gave their lives.
Yes.
The President is known to be a very patriotic man in his own way, and therefore he used the opportunity also to appreciate the Kenyans for rising up against the Western policies, and he called upon them to join Uganda in integrating markets, in working together to achieve strategic security and economic transformation.
Thank you, Nelson. I want to go for a quick commercial break, and when I return, I'll bring in my panelists here in the studio to just try to analyze everything that you've told us, but also I'll bring you on at a later time to just try to respond to any of the questions that may arise. We go for a quick commercial break, and when we return, we delve bigger and better into the topic.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. KFM's Hot Seat. Hot Seat. Hear the real story behind the story. Coming right at you. Only on 933 KFM.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this very last segment of our show today. I want to bring in Christopher Okidi to just try to help us understand from his perspective what this visit in Kenya means to Uganda, the visit of President Museveni to Kenya means to Uganda and traders, especially trade in Uganda.
Okay, yeah. First of all, I followed the President Museveni's 3 days closely on television. And for me, I was very happy because of two reasons. One, there were a lot of back and forth battles between Uganda and Kenya over commodities such as milk and eggs and some other commodities. And the mere fact that they were prioritized it formed the centerpiece, the center of the discussion. I think that was important. But to me now, I believe Kenya is like a big brother to Uganda. Just like even Kapo said, that we rely a lot on our brothers who have access to the sea and the coast. So Kenya is a very important, it's a ring state anyway to Uganda, and so our relationship with them is very important. But and then also another thing is President Museveni must have seen I just pray he came back with some inspiration from Kenya, because Uganda should actually take the trajectory, the governance trajectory of Kenya. I don't know what inspiration he found out by having a very young, because on the other side were younger people, negotiators from the Kenyan side, while he had his old Kanakas and all those people. But then also
we have a very short. We have
then also the transition.
In 30 seconds.
Okay, in 30 seconds, if I am to just summarize all this, my only worry is that nothing much is going to. You asked me about traders, or the political economy of all this, who gains and who loses. Definitely, Uganda is not a well-structured market where we have big. We have people who have who all this is going to benefit. First of all, but then also as East Africa, at the risk of sounding pessimist, we like exciting ourselves about grand projects such as the ECO, SGR, all these things. But then fiber optic cable. But and by the way, if we talk about fiber optic cable, do you know the cost of internet is higher in Uganda? And then also the center of the discussion was about VAT. Have you done comparative analysis and found that VAT is highest in Uganda? Even Kenya actually tried negotiating it downwards. It was in fact one of the memorandum. And then finally also, why I am not really excited is because we've had the Lesser Part project, that Lamu Port project, which was supposed to, among other things, provide a good security landscape in the region, but also spur economy and oil production.
Tim, I want to bring you in about a minute. Just make your summary about especially Museveni backing Raila Odinga in the EU chairmanship. What it means, AU chairmanship.
It means nothing. That's just why I've been telling you people off air, I need to stage a coup and take over this show and make it a real show. We need to start learning how to separate the optics of things, the symbolism of everything. Okay, Raila Odinga becomes African Union chairman. Then what? This time in 2001, I went to Addis Ababa. At that time it was called the OAU. So I got the AU headquarters. Visit, as an excuse was just come to visit now from Uganda. This is our, Africa Union place. So come see. This image of Africa Union you have on the outside, regional cooperation and all this. If you get to this, the actual building, the headquarters, secretariat of what you call the Africa heartbeat, the place where the planning is done for Africa. It's a very ordinary, NGO-ish Uganda kind of office, lousiness. Most of the internal calls there, it's like, excuse me, sir, have you worked on this for the ticket for my daughter? No, the ticket is for, my wife, the daughter, and it's my daughter and son, so it's 3 people. It's just that normal per diem Africa world and whatnot. So remember this new African Union building in Addis Ababa, who built $200 million? The Chinese for Africa. So in terms of this broad OAU, Pan-African,
isn't that a move to silence Raila in Kenya?
No, okay, first of all, Raila Odinga, as it is now, for the times that he's run, sought the presidency, he's one of those tragic figures in Africa. History, just like his father, these people who are always at the silver medal position and get 6 Olympic silver medals, Frankie Fredericks of Namibia, but never get the gold. So just to appease him and do all the optics. In other words, it's one of those optics things, but in terms of the substance of it, the real economic glue that holds Africa together now, unfortunately, is China. Chinese investment is the one that's creating that African Union. And as I said one day sarcastically on Twitter, and then psychologically, the real African Union, the thing that's holding Africans together is the English Premier League.
Frank, in 1 minute, what do you make about this visit?
Okay, first of all, I must mention, Wandera, that every year that goes by as President Museveni is aging, I really feel something that I will not mention here, because he remains a beacon of hope, he remains a beacon of trust for Uganda, but also for the East African region. I think his dream of regional integration is one that even when you listen to these people who contest him, I have not heard anybody apart from them being continuing to make these submissions of Museveni should go and all that. So I think President Museveni is lacking people, Ugandans, to back him on this vision of region integration. That is the way to go.
Nelly, I want to let you go, but just one word as you jump off the phone, because our time is well fast spent. Yes.
I have heard most of the guys and what they have said, but there is one thing that President Museveni has insisted on, and he has been very, 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 very
categorical
with that message. So the President Museveni has continuously said that Africans, we are the same. We do not need to even find things that bring us together, because we are already together. We have a natural infrastructure that Africans are the same. Those who have traveled, somebody has said has been in Addis, those who have traveled, you can move from here to South Africa, to Addis, and you will keep finding one word that is similar in our dialect. So, President was also very clear that we can start with the small ones. East Africa, for instance, can start speaking Swahili. And when we realize that we are actually the same, we will find ways to work together, to trade together, to deal together. We will be one population, and as a bloc, we will be able to negotiate our way to economic prosperity. And he was
Nelson, unfortunately, we don't have any other minute left on us, because we have to jump out of the studio. In studio also on the listening ear was Jimmy Odoki. He said, Can you just greet the listeners as we go off? Something about African Union.
I'll say something about President Museveni.
Okay.
I think
just 5 seconds.
The president should be applauded for what he's doing. He's stayed for too long, but he's trying to get. He said he's 80. You guys, I'm trying to help you anytime. What Frank said. So that's a good thing that is trying.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we have to end here the show. We shall be back bigger and even better on next Friday's show. My name is Derek Wandera. Have yourself a very good and wonderful weekend.
The hottest debate on all relevant topics live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight.